So I want to start this one off by saying I was a big proponent of gay marriage, and I remain a proponent of gay marriage. I believe that if two consenting adults decide they want to legally bind themselves together, by all means. Hell, I believe if someone wants to marry a blueberry pie, have at it, man. It doesn't affect me. It doesn't really do anything anyway to me. It doesn't affect me in any way, shape, or form. And one of the main reasons behind my, yeah, let's go with gay marriage was because I didn't like the conversion therapies. I didn't like, violence towards the gay and LGBT community. I'm not for that by any stretch of the imagination. So, when it passed, we all cheered, we all celebrated. It really was something that, we aimed for and got done. And I can appreciate that because I don't think anyone should be, discriminated against or treated differently because of really any facet of, their life. But here we are, a few years later, and you have an opinion piece that was written by that was written in, not by, but in the New York Times, and it's called "The Case for Gay Reparation." Other countries are taking steps to atone for their shameful past treatment of LGBT people. The United States should too. This is written by Omar Encarnacion. Mr. Encarnacion is a professor of political studies. Now, before I get into this, I've said on this channel on several occasions that the parallel between what the African American or ADOS community, the descendants of American slavery, because let's be real, there is a distinction between black people and the descendants of American slavery. The same way there's a distinction between white people and Europeans and the Irish. So let's start right there. I take issue with it primarily because it's impossible to tell, who was a homosexual or gay that was holding those fire hoses, Or one of my main things, or a joke that I say a lot is, who knows how many slave children were buggered by their homosexual masters. So I believe there's a lot of distinctions that really separate the two concepts. But as you can see, they're trying to be combined and congealed. And no, just no. So let's get into this. The New York Police Department apologized last week to the gay community for the 1969 raid of Stonewall Inn, the fallout of which is widely credited with spurring the contemporary gay rights movement at home and abroad. Timed to coincide with Stonewall's 50th anniversary, the statement by Commissioner James P. O'Neill said in part, "The actions taken by the NYPD were wrong, plain and simple, and the actions and the laws were discriminatory and oppressive, and for that, I apologize." The apology is the culmination of a decades-old struggle by gay activists for recognition of wrongdoing on the part of the police. One of the few activists thought, one that few activists thought could ever become a reality. With the surprise apology, the United States has taken its most significant leap yet into gay reparation, or policies intended to address the legacy of state-sanctioned repression of homosexuals. Okay, so maybe this is on me, but legacy is directly linked to birthright. I genuinely believe that when it comes to legacy, it's about, the families that you create and, the legacy and the impact that you leave. And we tend to do that through families, which is really one of the biggest disconnects between the homosexual community and these reparations of which they seek, because by sheer nature, I don't believe that homosexuality is an inherited trait, because if it was an inherited trait, we wouldn't be here, right? Like, I'm just saying. So that's really where one of the larger disconnects come in for me. Although relatively new to the United States, gay reparation has been debated and legislated around the world for close to 2 decades, and is a logical progression in the maturation of the gay rights movement. Having largely secured rights once thought to be virtually unattainable, especially same-sex marriage, gay activists, especially in Western democracies, are turning their attention to addressing the historical legacies of homosexual repression. Now, like I said in the beginning, I'm not with the conversion therapies. I'm not with, shunning the people shunning family members who come out as gay or homosexual. But I do understand to an extent the anger or the, I guess, sorrow that comes from the parental angle and the parental figures, because, that is their legacy to an extent. That is what they leave, that's what they're left behind. That's what they're leaving behind. And yeah, you can sit there and adopt all the grandkids that you want. You can do in vitro, you can do, insemination and all these other things. There's still how do I put it? There's still a bit of man, I'm having a hard time coming up with this word, but there is a bit of I guess a breaking of that person's bloodline that I can kind of get behind. Although there is no one-size-fits-all model when it comes to gay reparation, countries have taken 3 distinct approaches. The most common is moral rehabilitation, which entails a formal apology by the state and the expunging of criminal records for those convicted of a homosexual offense. There's also financial compensation for loss of income and pensions. Finally, there's truth-telling, or an official report on past wrongs that incorporates steps for reparation. These are not mutually exclusive approaches. In fact, as recent experiences show, they are often pursued simultaneously or sequentially. One of the first countries to grapple with gay reparation was Spain, which is fitting given the country's reputation. First one during the Inquisition, an institution infamous for burning sodomites at the stake as one of the most hostile to homosexuality in the Western world. In 2007, as part of the landmark Law of Historical Memory, which recognized the victims of the Spanish Civil War and the dictatorship of Francisco Franco, including homosexuals, it became possible for anyone who suffered economic hardship because of their sexual orientation to seek compensation from the state and to petition that their criminal record be expunged. According to El País, approximately 5,000 people were detained and arrested on suspicion of being gay under the Franco regime. Many were sent to mental institutions to undergo conversion therapy. Like I said, that's not good. That's no bueno. Following in Spain's footsteps, in 2009, the British government issued an official apology to Alan Turing, the World War II codebreaker. 57 years after he was sentenced to a chemical castration for being gay, yikes, Mr. Turing killed himself 2 years later. In his announcement, Prime Minister Gordon Brown said, while Turing was dealt with under the law at the time and we can't put the clock back, his treatment was of course utterly unfair, and I am pleased to have the chance to say how deeply sorry I and we all are for what happened to him. The Turing apology and his subsequent pardoning in 2013 were followed a few years later by a national pardon of thousands of gay and bisexual men who were convicted of crimes under sexual offense laws. Such laws, which in Britain, as in much of the English-speaking world, have traditionally applied only to men, were used in convicting some 65,000 people. In 2016, Germany announced it would make financial reparations from a fund of 30 million euros to anyone convicted under paragraph 175, a provision in the German criminal code that was employed by the Nazi regime to force homosexuals into concentration camps and that remained on the books until 1994. A reported 140,000 people were arrested under paragraph 175, though only about 5,000 of them were still living in 2016. The government also pledged to expunge the records of some 50,000 people jailed because of their sexual orientation. This is good. And this is a level of reparations. I completely get this, and I would actually like a lot of this for the descendants of American slavery. But yeah, definitely the expungements and going back and commemorating these people, this is good. This is okay. Necessary, I'm not 100% sure, but okay, definitely. Since 2017, Canada, Ireland, Scotland, New Zealand, and several Australian states have issued apologies to gay and bisexual men and other members of the LGBT community convicted of consensual same-sex activities before they were decriminalized, and have announced plans to expunge the records of their convictions. Canada's apology was preceded by a report written by the country's leading gay rights organization chronicling systemic anti-gay discrimination and accompanied by a payout of $85 million to the victims of the so-called gay purge, a policy of government-sanctioned discrimination that lasted until the 1990s and that caused thousands to lose their jobs and face prosecution. Certainly, the case for gay reparation in the United States is as compelling, if not more so, than in other Western democracies. President Dwight Eisenhower's 1953 Executive Order 10450, which called for the expulsion of homosexuals from all levels of federal government, contributed to the Lavender Scare, the hunting of homosexuals throughout the federal bureaucracy, from the post office to the military to the diplomatic corps. It also ushered in decades of initiatives, court rulings, and laws that demeaned and demonized homosexuals, such as Anita Bryant's 1977 Save Our Children campaign, which depicted gay men as pedophiles, Bowers and Hardwick, a 1986 Supreme Court ruling that upheld sodomy laws at a time when most democratic nations were already dismantling such laws. That ruling would be overturned until 2003, and Don't Ask, Don't Tell, the infamous 1993 policy that allowed homosexuals to serve in the armed forces if they kept their sexual orientation a secret. That policy alone was responsible for the dismissal of some 13,000 men and women, including medical doctors, fighter pilots, and Arabic translators, by the time it was revoked in 2011. I mean, if you look at the numbers, though, 13,000 compared to the over 100,000 that other countries kind of screwed over. The deal is, and I think one of the reasons I think this just piques my interest so much is because, it's one of those things that your sexuality is one of those things you can keep to yourself for forever and nobody really has to know. How do these people get into these positions in the first place? And it's because, it was just something that people didn't know. And honestly, you don't have to. It's really nobody else's business. So I completely agree with, making amends, dropping some resolutions and things like that to say, hey, yeah, we messed up. But as far as the reparations, as far as cash payout reparations go, it's the same as with, the descendants of American slavery. I'm not really for all that. But if history is any guide, gay reparation faces an uphill struggle in the United States. After all, American society is still debating the merits of reparations for slavery. Moreover, although polls reveal that the issue of gay rights no longer divides the American public, it remains salient to the Republican Party. Not surprisingly, social conservatives who control the party's social agenda have already attacked the idea. In 2010, the radio show host Michael Mediv said that any campaign for gay reparations will fall flat because there's no evidence whatever that today's homosexuals are heirs to a long, bitter heritage of discrimination that spans generations. Boom. He knocked it right out the park right then and there. Because it would technically be impossible for a 2019 heir what happened way back in the 60s, 50s, and even 80s and 90s. That's not particularly a legacy that they have to, that they've had to deal with, because it's not an inherited trait, right? So he added that unlike black people, homosexuals exercise a great deal of choice about how public they want to embrace gay identity and to claim a victim status. And that's another thing that really brings cause for pause on this, because at this rate, particularly with the whole trans thing and all these other different gender nonsense BS things, that, all you got to do is just claim, hey, yeah, I'm gay, so let me get in on that. and it's just like, it's an automatic victim card that I feel really should be revoked, because people can just be disingenuous. And that's not to say that I, take issue with whatever an adult wants to do with their own body with another consenting adult. Not at all. But when we're at a point now where New Jersey, and I actually cannot wait for this, because I don't think it's really sunk in for parents yet. But New Jersey, we've just passed laws that mandate that LGBTQ curriculum be taught in middle schools and high schools. And I don't think Jersey parents are fully aware of this, and they won't be until the kids start bringing the stuff home. And that's going to be very interesting. The Trump administration has also displayed a keen hostility towards the gay community. Okay, I gotta ask how, because he did the initiative. He's doing a worldwide initiative to decriminalize homosexuality. So what? Early on, all references of LGBT people were erased from government websites, including the 2017 apology issued by Secretary of State John Kerry for decades of prejudice towards gay and lesbians at the State Department. This month, the Trump administration recently rejected requests to fly the rainbow flag, a symbol of gay pride, at American embassies during the month of June, a practice begun by the Obama administration as a sign of America's support for LGBT rights. The deal with what Trump did was he said you couldn't put it on the same pole as the United States flag. Like, that's it. You can fly the flag. It's just not on the same pole as the United States flag. And, that's reasonable. Despite these daunting obstacles, gay reparation is a struggle worth pursuing. Is it though? Although it remains a relatively new phenomenon, it has so far shown itself to be a useful tool for restoring dignity to those victimized by discriminatory policies and for allowing countries to close long and painful chapters of homosexual repression. At the same time, gay reparation can serve to familiarize and sensitize the public about the injustices of the past, especially a new generation of LGBT people in the West who have mainly known freedom in their lifetimes. So why would you want to try? Why are you sitting here trying to make it seem as if they should be like, oh my goodness, because that gay person was, kicked out of the military, then my goodness, then this affects. No. By all means, do as you like, do as you please. But when it comes to reparations, just like in the form of, statements and, apologies, I'm with it. And I'm with that on every angle, because the government screws over everybody. It's not just you guys. Like, everybody catches the L from the government unless you got the money. But when it comes to like a cash payout or things like that, I just really believe that, hey, this is America. Get it. Like, you have the freedom to go get it. So go get it. Well, I think that's pretty much it. That's good. So all the internet things, like it if you liked it, or dislike it, I ain't scared of you. Sub if you enjoy my fantastic voice. Share, because sharing is caring. And speak, let me know. Do you think that this is anything other than just another attempt to tie the sentiments of descendants of American descendants of slavery to gayness, and make them parallel, as if the struggles are the same, as if it was gay people out there getting hit with water hoses, or as gay people who were redlined into terrible districts. Gay people did get caught up in the drug war, but everybody got caught up in the drug war. You see what I'm saying? So I'd really like some feedback on this one. And until the next video.